Just make sure your phone's on silent. That's all I'm going to say.
Good morning. I'm Berks County Commissioner Christian Leinbach, and I want to welcome you to our Berks County operations meeting for February the 11th. We are in person as well as on Microsoft Teams live event, and we're also on YouTube Live, which will provide a recording of this program when it is complete. At this time, I'll recognize my executive assistant. I almost said it, not quite. Veronica Lepore to read the public comment policy.
Good morning, thank you. Public comment will be accepted in person and through the Q&A function. Please include your first name, last name, and municipality for all comments. Any comments without name and municipality will not be considered. Each citizen can submit one comment. Comment length is dictated by limitations of the platform being used, Teams Q&A. In-person comments will be accepted first, followed by comments submitted virtually. The meeting comment period is limited to a total of 30 minutes, including both in-person and virtual comments. This time period may be extended at the discretion of the board. Please be concise. Comments that are germane to county business will be read during the meeting and should not be considered to be interactive dialogue with the commissioners. The county solicitor shall be the final arbiter of whether a comment is germane and should be read. Any commissioner response to public comment will be done at the discretion of the commissioners.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Are there any additions or corrections for the January 28th, 2025 meeting minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. Is there any public comment on agenda items? None in person, none online. So we will go into our agenda. We have one item on the agenda today, but three presenters. For the last number of years, each year, somewhere in the beginning of the year, late January, early February, the commissioners provide a review of the prior year of our individual goals and objectives, which, as you will see, tie in very much to the goals and objectives of the county. And then going forward, share our goals and objectives, in this case for 2025. I let my colleagues work out the order, and the order today, I will be going first. Commissioner Rivera will be presenting second, Commissioner Santoni presenting third. And so with that, unless there are any questions, we will jump right into the presentations. Give me a minute. So looking at 2025 and beyond, the goals and objectives are my vision for Berks County, not for 1 year, but rather for the next 5 to 10 years. I believe very strongly that decisions should not be made, and I've got this blocked here, should not be made, whatever it said. Can't go back, but that's fine. They must be, they shouldn't be made in the short term. They must be considered in the long game. I look beyond when I may be here and ask what kind of Berks County am I leaving to the taxpayers and the leaders that follow me. Okay, we're gonna have fun here. There we go. So goals and objectives. Just share my vision. I'm going to let folks read that. I don't need to read what's there. So let's start by looking at how we did. Now, I want to be very clear here. I am not judging anybody else. I'm looking at these objectives as the goals that I set forward and how I feel I did in the role that I play and where my satisfaction level is. Starting with fiscal responsibility, I gave myself a C+. And there's two reasons here. Every year, my goal is to not have a tax increase for the following year. Fiscal responsibility is the number one thing that I focus on year after year. I have some data to show you, but the bottom line is we ended up with a tax increase in 2025, albeit 8%. And that tax increase represents a rate greater than the rate of inflation for that same period of time. Again, we'll look at that a little bit more. But if I'm a taxpayer, I'm not particularly happy getting 2 tax increases in a row in 2024 and 2025. Now, politicians will tell you shouldn't focus on the bad things, just focus on the good things. I believe on focusing on the reality, and that happens to be the reality. The Reading Regional Airport was my number 2 objective. I think we've done very well, aggressively promoting aviation growth. I'm thrilled with how the acquisition of the FBO went. We are in the black the first year, including the debt service for the bond that was required to acquire both of those FBOs. And as you'll see in a little bit, we have some very exciting things on the horizon with the Reading Regional Airport. Number 3, passenger rail. Now, you might be surprised with the B+, but I'm a little disappointed that things have dragged a little bit with the Corridor ID program. We're finished, step 1, but it's kind of dragging with the federal government since the late part of the 3rd quarter of 2024. I have to be fair, the Federal Rail Administration has never gone through a program like this before, but nonetheless, I get concerned when I see government kind of churn and slow down in the process. Election integrity, I think it was a solid A. And I'm not taking credit for anything. I'm willing to take blame, but credit here, we have an amazing team. You'll hear me refer to the team, the power of the team, but our election department just hit it out of the park with the primary election, the general election, and all the work that most people don't see that takes place in between. Economic development. We have Pam Mennett here, our Director of Community and Economic Development, Derek Harris, who is kind of our data guru. If you need data and research, Derek's the guy to get it. They have done an amazing job along with the various departments, and we'll see that. I'll call them those authorities out, department, the ag department, but very happy with the work that's been accomplished. The county management team, the COO team, continue to just do great work. I am so glad that we bolstered this team a couple years ago, because there are things that we are getting accomplished that have to be done, and not nice to do's, things that absolutely have to be done that I do not know how we would accomplish if we didn't have the team in place in the COO team today. Berks Health Study, another low score, C. We did not act on any of the recommendations last year. The driving factor was the budget. And I understand that, but nonetheless, there was a goal to act on those recommendations, and it didn't happen. Berks County Jail I have as a C+. New jail construction is on hold. We knew that. I don't feel that I've done enough to address the issue of who is incarcerated and making sure that we're incarcerating people that need to be there versus people that could be out being productive citizens and handling their punishment in some more appropriate way. I'll talk about specifics when I get to that goal looking forward. And then finally, roads and bridges, A-. We did what we needed to do. Projects are underway. We'll talk about some of those projects that are future and some of those that are underway. I have an A- because I don't think there was anything necessarily spectacular in that area, but absolutely a solid job. So I use this often. If everything is a priority, nothing's a priority. So there are definitely things that are important to the county that I'm not going to be talking about today because I can't focus on everything. So as I look into 2025, here's what I'm focusing on. Number one, and I'm not going to spend much time here because I will expand on each of these. Fiscal responsibility is number one. Number two, the Reading Regional Airport. Number three, passenger rail. Number four, election integrity. 5, economic development. 6, county management. 7, Berks County Jail. 8, roads and bridges. 9, the Berks Health Study. So let's take a look at those. I note this again. There are other projects, there are other issues, and I am certain there will be issues that will come up in 2025 that we don't know anything about today. We don't see it on our horizon, but that's what life does, and I'm confident we're prepared to address those things that come up. So fiscal responsibility. I want to share some data. January 2008, that's when I took office, through December of 2024, the CPI has been 49.57%. That is the cost of living, and this is the universal index that looks at consumer impact. County spending during that same period of time, and it says through 2025, is 27.1. So this includes the tax increase for 2025, 27.1, just about half the rate of inflation. Here's some other factors. I track employment all the time because the largest, for most organizations, the largest cost area are wages, salaries, and benefits. It's an impact. In 2008, when I took office, the total employment for Berks County government was 2591. At the end of December of this year, it was 2177, well under where we were in 2008. My goal going forward is to maintain our AAA Moody's bond rating. We secured that rating in 2019. We've had several calls on it since, and it has been upheld as recently as last year. We are in the top 5% of fiscally managed counties across the country. It's true in Pennsylvania, but it's true where we sit across the country. We have our own savings and efficiency team. Once again, this week, I had somebody email me and say, you people of Berks County don't know what you're doing. You need a Doge. So my answer is, we've had SET before there was a Doge. We had the savings and efficiency team and have seen significant success looking for opportunities for better ways to do things and finding savings. It's chaired today by Commissioner Michael Rivera. And our goal each year is no tax increase for the following year. I want to share one other bit of information, and the link at the bottom of this page, and I'm going to have to go back because it doesn't work the way it did on my on my computer. This is data from the U.S. government labor and statistics. That's where I'm getting the inflation data. The reason I'm sharing that, there are a number of different inflation calculators online, and there are several different ones within the U.S. government. This is the one, so if somebody looks at it and says, I did it and it came out to 46 or 48%. This is where I'm using, getting my data, and I've used this for the last several years. Let me share some other important data, and I want you to look at this chart. There's 3 different graph lines on the graph. This first one is the effective CPI universal rate. This is the consumer rate of inflation. Starting in 2008, you see a steady climb in that inflation, and in 2020, it goes through the roof. And it's still on a significant climb, and if you're following even the news today, inflation is still a concern. This is important. That's the cost of living. The second line I want you to look at is called taxable assessed value. That is this blue line. And that is looking at all of the properties in the county and the assessed value. This is not the taxes that they are generating, but the assessed value of that property. This demonstrates better than I have been able to explain in prior years why property tax is such a problem when it comes to funding government. And I want to point out two problems. Number one, 2008. I think all of us remember October of 2008. The markets crashed, the Great Recession. I want you to look at the assessed value of property. It never went negative. Now, for several years, it was pretty flat. It starts to go up a little bit in 14, but it never went negative, in spite of the fact that numerous people in Berks County lost their jobs, saw a significant cut in their income, and basically were being asked, you still need to pay the same in property tax, and in some cases, more. That's the first thing I want you to see. Property tax revenues do not and cannot reflect the economy. Look at how off that line is from the cost of living. Yes, it's gone up, but it's so gradual and so small. That's why governments, and primarily counties in Pennsylvania, rely exclusively on property tax. That's what funds us. If you look at first-class counties like Philadelphia, Allegheny, they have a number of other taxes, wage taxes and other areas. School districts have other taxes. Cities and municipalities have other taxes. We're in the city of Reading. They have a wage tax. We don't have that. We have one general fund tax, and that's property. The middle line, which is the county tax rate, shows you tax increase in 2013, tax increase in 2018, and this is what it does to the revenue. Tax increase in 24, tax increase in 2025. So you see, even with that, we are way below the cost of living, and I think that's a good thing. That's what I celebrate. Not the fact that we had or didn't have a tax increase, but that our spending is dramatically lower than the rate of inflation. Real quickly, to put this in perspective, prior to my time coming here, there were 3 tax increases in a 13-year period, equating to a 92% increase in county spending. The inflation, same calculator, for that period was 39.8%, more than double. County spending was more than double the rate of inflation. That is unsustainable. 2008 through 2024, if you go through the end of 2024, total increase in spending was 19.1%. And then you add in 2025, additional 8%, that takes you to a 27.1%. Inflation through December is 49.57%. That number will be somewhere in the low 50s by the end of this year. Reading Regional Airport, our overall goal is to make it the #1 general aviation airport in Pennsylvania. Today, we're number 12 by economic impact. Most of the airports ahead of us have commercial air service, and some of them are pretty big, like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. We want to continue the financial growth of Reading Aviation, the FBO business, in 2025. We plan to build additional hangar space in 2025. We're working right now on a 24 to 25,000 square foot hangar for an existing customer, and then potentially two 12,000 square foot box hangars. We want to sign at least one new additional aviation tenant. I think that should happen by April of this year. We want to improve the airport and FBO marketing plan. We have Kylie Kirkpatrick in that role. She's just about finished her first year. She's doing a great job. We have a great marketing team. Pam Mennett is also part of that marketing team. And we want to work to add corporate and possibly commercial flights for the Reading Regional Airport. And when I say this, we have been working with an airline since early fall. We had discussions again with them last week. They're very interested in Reading. We just finished a survey with our top corporations in Berks County. We gave those results to this company, and they made it very clear they want to come to Reading, PA. Can't say who it is yet until that actually happens, but this is not just a pipe dream. And to continue growing non-aviation development outside of the fence. We have one project that has a developer's agreement in place on non-aviation land, and we're working with another company that I think would be a great addition to a non-aviation area and non-aviation land outside of the fence. Passenger rail, we will complete, and I said step one is complete, but FRA has not signed off on it. FRA is the Federal Rail Administration. We will begin step two. We will not finish step two. Step two is a pretty long process, going over cost structure, working with operators, working with the owners of the actual rail. So Norfolk Southern owns the bulk of the rail line. Amtrak is the operator, so a lot of stuff to take place there. Continue working with the city of Reading and the GRCA to establish the TOD. The TOD is a zoning district around the station that is transit-oriented development. It's going to take a lot of work, but I'm confident working together with the city, with the chamber, we can accomplish that. One of the reasons I believe that in 2024, we were able to finish a study identifying the Franklin Street Station as the optimum location for the passenger rail station. That's significant in that Pottstown and Phoenixville A have not finalized their station location. Phoenixville's most likely going to have to build from scratch. That's anywhere from $20 to $40 million, and that is not a cost to the authority. Those costs have to be borne exclusively by the county and the municipality where those stations will reside. Pottstown might be a little bit closer. They have the old station, although it's occupied, and they would have to move the occupants and fundamentally invest to completely not restore, redo that facility to make it into a station. We don't have to do that. Our station is ready to go, probably about $1 to $2 million in improvements, primarily on the exterior, so that the platform matches the latest regulations for Amtrak. Election integrity, continue building trust in the process, continue to strengthen staff training. And when I talk about this is the training for our internal staff, but especially for those people that are working on election day. Updating election policies, keeping them current, continued focus on election security, enhancing training for election day poll workers, and continue to push for legislative changes. Again, these are things that I support: voter ID, canvassing, moving back the mail-in application deadline, and addressing the date and signatures on the ballot envelopes. Economic development, pushing forward with Imagine Berks. Again, Pam has done an amazing job, not just overseeing the authoring of this, but continuing to implement it. And I want to recognize our partners. GRCA has been a major partner on this. The Reading Regional Airport Authority, the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority, the Berks County Redevelopment Authority, the Berks County Industrial Development Authority, significant players on that. Continuing our strong partnership with the GRCA. I just had a call with the chair of the board on Saturday, and we were talking about the relationship between the county and GRCA. It's never been stronger. I'm proud of the relationship that we have. Continue to focus on job retention. Focus on existing business growth. Pam and I, years ago, before I was a commissioner, your early days at BEP and then GREP. BEP was Berks Economic Partnership, and then it was changed to the Greater Reading Economic Partnership. I often get frustrated with economic development people, not Pam, that focus on bringing the big and new companies and forget about who's already here. And that's where the greatest opportunity is. And Pam has always gotten that. And that's why we focus on that. You don't see us racing after to get the 800-pound gorilla business to move in here and then turn around one day and say, why'd we lose this business? They moved out because we were ignoring what we had, trying to race after what we didn't have. New business and job attraction, and then implement Growing Berks. Very recently in this meeting, Pam presented the Ag Economic Strategy, which is Growing Berks. We're committed now to see that being implemented over the course of this year and beyond. And then county management, our leadership team is our key to success. I am using this broadly, but the COO team, the commissioners, the solicitor, and HR make up the core leadership team. We are talking, if we're not necessarily all talking to each other every single day, but the leadership team is in communication with each other on a daily basis and working to make sure we're making the best decisions possible, because no one person knows it all. It's just not possible. Prioritizing major COO and county projects for 2025. We just got this list. I went through it, and I'm just highlighting things that I think are big, not to say that others aren't important, but these are big issues. They're important to me, and I believe they're important that the county is aware of them. When you look at the cost challenges that we faced over the last year, some of it shows up here. The Youth Detention Center, a little over a year ago, beginning of February of 24, we passed an emergency declaration at the urging of our president judge and several other judges, as well as our district attorney, that we needed to aggressively move to address the Youth Detention Center. The space study implementation, Beers Hoffman did a complete study. We've now started the implementation probably over 6 years. It's going to take about 6 years to do that. But by doing that study, we determined we don't need more space. We need to better allocate the space that we have. And so there's movement of offices and redesigning of office space that will be taking place as a result of that over the next 6 years. The Ag Center Phase 2 will be starting sometime this year. The youth shelter is underway. In July, it will celebrate its 1-year anniversary. And then staffing, I have as a significant issue. It's an HR issue, but from a county management team, we need to continue to retain great talent, but also attract talent. Fiscal responsibility is job number one. Also continued focus on training and retention for our county team. Berks County Jail, who needs to be in jail? Maintaining the facility, focus attention on nonviolent offenders and alternative sentencing. This past year, I spent some time with our president judge, and she has assured me, Judge Johnson, that she's looking at the issue of work release and day reporting in lieu of work release. It's a little complicated, but in short, if a decision is made to say, look, if somebody is able to do work release, they're leaving the jail 8 to 12 hours a day, maybe 7 days a week, why keep them incarcerated? Why not stand up some type of a day reporting program so they can be out, back in society, and still maintaining their, I want to say, the responsibility to the legal system. That has to be part of an order when a person is sentenced. And so that's something that we're looking at going forward. I'm hopeful that that will happen. That will, again, help with the idea of limiting who needs to be in our jail. We need to continue to seek alternatives for the mentally ill inmates. I don't know about my colleagues. Well, you were in Harrisburg for the priorities. Everybody is for dealing with mental health, except when it comes to the money. And I use this reference, everyone wants to go to heaven, nobody wants to die. We have got to figure this out. We need to do everything we can on our own side of the equation to the extent that we don't have to rely on the state. And we are looking at some things. I know there's discussions on the 4th floor of the old BCRC building that might be a way to address some of this, but we have to find alternatives. The latest numbers for our jail with category C and D, those are the worst or most serious people with mentally ill, is 64% of our population, 729 people in the average, well, actually not average, that was a week ago when I met with a warden, 729, 64% of those individuals are in category C or D and need alternatives other than jail for mental health. Wherever possible, we need to start being even more serious about regional solutions. The YDC is an example of that, and I want to compliment Larry, Kevin, and their team, the warden, and others, solicitor, HR, that have been working on the YDC. We now have 3 counties fully committed to moving forward with joint responsibility, joint financial responsibility for the jail, for the youth detention center. There's other things that you'll be seeing, but that's an example of attacking a major challenge and doing it with a regional solution. Let me emphasize, this is for minors who are absolutely violent. We're not talking about taking every little crime committed by a minor and incarcerating them. We know that doesn't work. This is about violent crimes. And right now, the district attorney will tell you that not only is the system a joke, they know, and in many cases, the gang leaders who are adults put these minors out on the street to commit the crime because they know there's no place to put them. And they'll be released often with an ankle monitor that then gets cut off and they do another major crime. So it needs to be addressed. Transportation, public safety, and economic access. Route 222 completion in Northeast Berks to Lehigh. It won't be completed this year. Don't think that I'm suggesting that, but we need to continue to move this forward on the other side of the Kutztown bypass. Money obviously is going to continue to be an issue. West Shore bypass, you'll be seeing more and hearing more about that. Again, it won't start this year, but it is in planning stages. Ramp connections for 222 and 422. Those are in planning stages. Route 61, Shoemakersville to Schuylkill County. that work is underway right now. Ask me about it. I see it every day because I live up in the Hamburg area. Lexa, you know what I'm talking about. But that is underway. And then Route 12 from Spring Valley to 73, that is underway as well. Hopefully we'll finish this year. Last item, Berks County Health Study, acting in the interest of the community. And just so you know, I'm not hiding this. I intentionally changed my position, determine what, if any, steps should be taken in 2025 relative to the 2023 Berks County Health Study. I said that because we are still under major financial pressures, and I want to be cautious about taking on new costs or expense. But here are the 4 recommendations. I want us to look at those and this year and make a decision one way or the other. And the decision could be to put it off, but let's have a debate, let's have a discussion, and make a decision. In the end, success comes down to the team and not a single player. While each of us are presenting, I think you'll hear a continued theme that it is not me, it's not I, it's us as a team. And that team goes down to every single employee here in Berks County government, because there is no county government without the 2,177 members of the team. I want to thank our part of the team. We took this picture last week with our Eagles gear, and the 2 people in the middle, Barbie Lopez and Commissioner Rivera, we did this at Employee Recognition. They celebrated their 5 years with the county. So we got the whole team, all of us, except Barbie, has Eagles gear on. I just thought I'd point that out.
She wore something green. She didn't have any.
It was kind of olive drab, but whatever. And then I had to get in. It's spring training is coming up. Is it this week they report?
Pitchers and catchers.
Yeah, pitchers and catchers. So that's my presentation. And let me get out, stop sharing. And I will turn the microphone over to Commissioner Michael Rivera.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. I'm going to go over the 2024 goals and what we accomplished in those goals. I'm going to take a little more time to go over what are some of the things that we accomplished throughout the year and what were some of the challenges that we had throughout the year as well. And then I'm going to go into my 2025 goals and objectives, or my priorities, if you want to say it that way. Just like Commissioner Leinbach mentioned, if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. So what I have is a list of those things that I want to focus a little bit more of my time on than on some other areas. It doesn't mean that other areas are not important. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to focus on other areas, but these areas that I'm going to mention are areas that for me are important, and I want to dedicate more of my time to those areas in 2025. So 2024, many things went well. There were other things that we had challenges in and opportunities for growth, both individually and as a team as well. But overall, I think 2024 was a good year. It was a year of significant achievement, and we met several key milestones here at the county. And saying that, I want to just take a moment to recognize our staff and the team here at Berks County. There's no way that any of us here could reach or even come close to accomplishing what was accomplished in 2024 without the help of our staff here at the county. So I want to take a moment to thank every employee at Berks County, part of our leadership team as well here on the 13th floor, Barbara Lopez, my executive assistant. Without her, I would have not even gotten anywhere close to getting anything done that I need to get done. So Barbie, thank you and congratulations on your 5th year anniversary. So again, this is teamwork. We need to make sure that we are all working together because none of us could do this independently. Even if we take the COO team and they would work independently from human resources and from the solicitors team, they would not be able to accomplish what we accomplished last year. We need to make sure that we continue to work as a team, integrate better as a team to be able to move forward in 2025. So my key areas of focus or priorities for 2024 were fiscal responsibility, the CCAP 2024 priorities, elections, savings and efficiency, Imagine Berks, staff growth and development, and the airport. And as I go throughout this, you'll see there are some themes that are the same as Commissioner Linebox. I'm going to, for time's sake, I'm going to try not to go over what he already went over in accomplishments and in numbers. So I'm going to skip over some of those areas as I go through my presentation. But area number one is fiscal responsibility. And this has been and will continue to be priority number one. Now, one thing I want to clarify is, and I think it's important that we need to look at, a lot of times we look at fiscal responsibility and we say, okay, did we have a tax increase? We didn't have a tax increase, so we were fiscally responsible. We did have a tax increase, so we were not fiscally responsible. And that cannot be further from the truth. Tax increase is part of fiscal responsibility, but fiscal responsibility also deals with the long-term economic stability of the county. It deals with managing finances in a careful and responsible manner. It deals with making prudent decisions with taxpayer dollars. It's about having a sustainable budget year after year after year after year, and taxes is only part of this equation. So that's important to understand when you're looking at the overall of fiscal responsibility, just the same as in your home. You have a budget. You're hoping to have some type of increase in your income and keeping your expenses either the same or reduce them. But at times you can't have that. At times you won't get as much of an increase as you expected. And at times you will have an increase in expenses more than you expected. And that's the same thing here at the county. We have to understand also that part of fiscal responsibility is stewardship of our properties. When you look at county properties, none of them except the South Campus is a newer property. They're all old properties. They need to be rehabbed, and that is something that we looked at in 2024 through the space allocation study and said, what do we need to do with the properties that the county has, with the changing demographics in our workforce, to make sure that we are using our space to the best use of its capacity, and also, while we're making those changes, what do we need to do to the properties to ensure that they will be here for the long term and not just the short term. And that is part of the budget. We have a lot of capital improvements that we will be doing in the next 6 years, and that costs money. But again, that is something that will have a long-term impact on the county, helping to reduce costs and maintain costs low after those changes and those capital repairs have been made. So we have the aging properties and changing needs that also go into fiscal responsibility. And we had to make some financially responsible decisions for the long-term benefit of the county. And yes, one of them was to increase the taxes. And it's something I do want to make known that it's not something that we take lightly, something that we look at and we say, what are expenses? How can we reduce them? What can we do to not have a tax increase? And if we do, what is the minimum tax increase that we have? One of the things that we did was the COO sent out an email to the department heads asking them to go on a budget diet. In other words, where can you cut the fat out of your budget to help us maintain fiscal responsibility at the county? Area number two was CCAP priorities. CCAP had 8 priorities which were set forth by the county members. One was 911 funding and reauthorization, county mental health base funding increase, addressing inmates with mental health issues, increasing the prevailing wage threshold, right to know reform, vote by mail reform, broadband access and development, and juvenile detention capacity crisis. So although we did not reach our goals in all of these areas, there were significant milestones addressed in these key issues for counties. We had ongoing conversations with the legislature, ongoing conversations with the administration. We spoke at different policy committee meetings and presented different memos to the different committees as well in reference to these 8 areas and other areas that CCAP focuses on as well. And I said, well, why was CCAP priorities a priority for me last year? Well, one, I was the CCAP president last year. And if you look at all of these 8 priorities, all of these 8 priorities also have an impact on Berks County, each one of them. That's why it was so important to be able to spend time and focus on these 8 areas. We also work collaboratively with other state associations of local government, matching up our priorities to say, you know what, it's not just county commissioners, it's municipal leaders, it's township commissioners, it's borough leaders that also have these same priorities that need to be pushed forward. Unfortunately, in the last budget for last year, we had requested a $250 million increase in mental health funding. We only got a $20 million increase in mental health funding. And if you look at the governor's address on his budgetary priorities for 2025 and 2026, there is no increase in mental health-based funding. And as part of our conversations around mental health-based funding, everyone passed the ball onto someone else. Rank and file said it's leadership. Leadership, it said rank and file. The legislature said it was the administration. The administration said it was the legislature that needed to push this. So this is something we will continue to work on with CCAP in the next coming year, together with 911 funding and reauthorization and the vote by mail reforms, which are the 3 priorities for CCAP in 2025. Next area is elections. And our goal was to ensure fair, secure, accurate, and accessible elections, and we did that in Berks County. So I want to thank everyone who worked and volunteered in the elections department and on the primary and general election day in November. Thank you. We have over 1,000 people that work on election day out at the 202 polling places, and without you, we would not be able to carry out our elections. So thank you. Some of the highlights for elections is we now have our elections equipment stored at the facility at the South Campus. It's a much larger facility. We have office space there. We have meeting rooms there for elections to work out of. So it's a much better space than what we had at the North Campus for the election equipment. Some of the good things in elections that happened in 2024, the primary and general elections ran without any major situation. So we had overall successful elections in 2024. And although they ran well, there's always place for improvement. There's always place to do things better. And after each election, there were various meetings held in which the staff, the volunteers, the other department heads who helped with the elections got together and said, what went well? What do we need to improve upon for our next election? So it's continuous improvement and continuous learning throughout that process, and that's something that we did. Also, we helped build the confidence in Berks elections and the Office of Election Services. There was education, there was training, and based on how the elections went in 2024, I believe that helped build the support for the elections office and being able to understand that in Berks County, we do run elections in a way that is safe and secure and accessible to everyone in the county. And at this point also, we are fully staffed in the Election Services Department. What could have gone better, or what were some of the challenges in relations to elections? One, after 2 years, we are still not clear about dated and undated ballots. It's something that goes from court to court to court to court, bouncing back and forth. We did not get the needed reforms at the state level that we had asked for. This is something that we continue to work on. Commissioner Leinbach spoke about that, so I'm not going to get into any details around that. Something else we want to focus on now, and we've been looking at how we can do that, is incorporating the increased volume of over-the-counter voting with other elections preparation work. In 2024, one of the things that happened was we had an unprecedented number of people coming in for over-the-counter ballots, and that took time from the staff and election services. And it was hard to work with because it was the first time happening and it was unexpected. So now we want to make sure that we're preparing for this for the next elections. And also we're preparing and improving the processes at the polls, specifically around provisional voting. That's something that goes on with the training for our poll workers. But overall, elections did a great job, so kudos to the team in election services. The next item is the savings and efficiency team. A few areas that we focused on in there was COOP planning, which is continuing of operations plan, which means is what happens if we do not have access to this building? How do the departments continue to work? What happens if we don't have access to the North Campus, to the Ag Center? How do the departments that work out of there continue to work? What happens if there's a train wreck behind us, God forbid? How do we continue to work on? So that's something that's in the works now. It's not something that is determined overnight. This is something we've been working on for a little over a year right now and hope to finish it now in 2025. The other areas we've been focusing on in SET is the use of technology and process improvements. How can we use technology to be more efficient, and what process improvements can we use to be able to be more efficient? So that's looking at how do different county departments interact with each other? How do we minimize the paper going from one department to the other to the other? How do we minimize processes where three departments have to enter different information for one process? These are all things that we look at to say, how can we be more efficient and how can we save money through processes and the use of technology? One of the things I do want to be able to do is focus more of my time of this in 2025. IS and the CO department did focus a good amount of time to this because we understand it is important to our services here. Area number 5 is Imagine Berks. And this is the third year of implementation. When we voted on it and implemented it almost 3 years ago, we said it's not something we want to put on a shelf or put in a drawer and have it gather dust, but we want to make sure that it's being implemented. So I want to touch today briefly on some highlights of what we accomplished last year in reference to Imagine Berks. So one, which is build, which is business, industry, and growth and land use. Some of the successes were broadband education programs with BCIU, Connections Work, and Berks County Community Health Center. There are $600,000 that was set aside total for these initiatives. There was Building the Boroughs Education Forum was held in October of 2024, and that is a multi-municipal smart growth event targeting our boroughs as a way to talk about redevelopment opportunities and updates to the comprehensive plan. We completed the Ag Study, Growing Berks Agriculture Economic Impact and a Roadmap for its Future, and you'll hear more about this in the coming months. Next thing was growth and spotlight on the Reading Regional Airport as an economic development asset, and the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority efforts continues to have broad inter-county support. Some of the challenges in this area were the infrastructure fund was delayed. We had hoped to start this in 2024. This is being run by the Berks County Redevelopment Authority, and it was $5 million that was set aside to help to fund infrastructure projects throughout Berks County. It's not a fund, it's not a grant. It is a low interest loan that is given, and there's other benefits to using this fund. But the idea is that as this fund gets put out into the community to be used, the repayments come back and can be used then for the long-term use of this infrastructure fund. In small business and entrepreneurship, we provided funding to support micro grants and loan programs through our different partners such as Alvernia, Berks Launchbox, Barrio Alegría, and Emerging Entrepreneurs Academy. One of the challenges is funding streams that were more broadly available during the pandemic are no longer available. In placemaking, we rolled out the Greenways Plan implementation and provided funding to 11 community projects which align with the Greenways Plan. And we also worked on our Main Street organizations to provide customized market data for their events, businesses, and programs. Under housing, we had successes. We provided funding to the Berks County Redevelopment Authority to purchase the Exeter Promenade. It's right now going through a rezoning process to bring this site onto the market with the potential of targeted development. I'm not sure how much of that is public yet, so I'm going to leave it at that there. And we have seen an increase in the housing pipeline in Berks County, but still there is a housing shortage identified at 6,600 units. We were at around 2,600 last year, so still a little short there. So some of the challenges around housing is the cost barrier to home ownership, and still the inventory remains tight. Actually, looking at the MLS numbers, at one point towards the end of last year, we creeped up a little bit over 400 in the single-family homes available on the market. Just these recent days, it was down to 350 something, so mid 350 to 360 for all of Berks County. Of those, under 300 were available to move in tomorrow if they had to. Some of them were still new construction that could take 3, 4, 6 months to be able to be ready. So we have done strides in housing, but there's still a long way to go yet. My next item was staff growth and development. Two things we focused on. One was succession planning, make sure that every department has a deputy to ensure continuity of services. We're not 100% there yet, but it's something that we have been working on throughout the year. And also we have focused on training and development, one for management, for senior management, and also for county employees at large. There's been anywhere from first aid training, mental health training, NACO leadership training, interview skills training, ethics training, and other types of leadership training and skill development training for our employees, because we understand that being the face of the county, our employees need to make sure that we need to make sure that our employees are properly trained. The next area is the airport. I'm not going to talk about that. Commissioner Leinbach spoke about that at length, but just to give you some numbers as the importance of the airport. According to a PennDOT Bureau of Aviation report from 2023, the airport has an impact of 441 jobs in Berks County, $26 million in payroll, 78 million total economic impact in Berks County. So basically saying without the airport, we'll lose $78 million in economic impact. That's why our focus on that is so important. And the regional airport is ranked in the top 10 of all general aviation airports in the state, and our goal is to make it number 1. Next, I'm going to talk about my 2025 priorities. Again, there's a lot of important things that we do here, but these are what's important for me. There's 5 areas that I want to focus on for 2025. One, again, continues to be fiscal responsibility, and it will continue to be job number 1. But as I indicated before, fiscal responsibility includes keeping spending under the rate of inflation, making prudent decisions with taxpayer dollars, ensuring the long-term economic stability of the county, and maintaining the top bond rating of AAA, which helps with any debt that we need to get into. And also, it will be a continued focus on SET, which is the Savings and Efficiency Team. Item number 2 is county governance. And I moved this from just staff training and development because there's a lot more that goes into county government. It does include senior staff development, continuing with the succession planning to make sure we're moving that forward, staff training, development, and growth opportunities, making sure in all departments that efficiency in our processes is always top of mind. How can we be more efficient with what we do at the department level? Also want to make sure that we have a continuous learning and improvement mindset. How do we look at things? Always make sure that we're looking at things and say, how can we improve? How can we be more efficient? How can we make processes better? And that's something I want to encourage not only our department heads or deputies, but everyone in every department, keep that continuous learning and improvement mindset. And around that, also county government is the space allocation study implementation. Item number 3 is economic development. 1, maintain our focus on Imagine Berks. 2, maintain our focus on the ag study, which was just released. 3, the focus on the airport. And 4, on housing. Right now, together with the Planning Commission and the Reading Berks Association of Realtors and other key stakeholders, we're putting together a housing initiative, which is going to be part of the comp plan, the comprehensive plan for 2025, but more focused on housing to say, how can we tackle this need in Berks County? Item number 4 is election integrity. Something to keep in mind is say, well, last year was the presidential elections. That was the big election. This year it's local. We really don't have as large of a turnout for the elections. But something to keep in mind is when the local elections are here, it's a lot more work for our staff downstairs because they have to go through all the local petitions, all the local finance reports, and there are a lot more races in this election than other years. So they need to coordinate with all the municipalities, with the school districts, to make sure that the ballot is correct, that petitions are in, that finance reports are in. So there's a lot more paperwork and time that goes into preparing for the elections than there was last year. Also, continued staff development leading to restoration of voter confidence in the Office of Election Services. Continue to work with CCAP, the administration and General Assembly on much needed election reform. And also the other 2 areas that I spoke about, which is integrate the newly increased demand for over-the-counter voting with established election prep work and improve process at polls on election day, primarily around provisional ballots and voter surrendering mail-in ballots and so forth. So those are areas of focus in the election services and around the election integrity. And the last area is youth shelter and detention center. Want to make sure that we continue to meet the needs of the county with this. We want to make sure that we're using the youth shelter at maximum capacity. We have 20 beds in there. So how are we going to make sure that we're using that to maximum capacity? And also ensuring that we have proper state funding and support for the youth detention center. Not sure that will happen in 2025, but looking more towards 2026, but it's something that we continue working on. So those are my 5 goals for 2025. Again, just want to give another big thank you and shout out to our staff here at Berks County who will be able to make these things happen in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera.
I think I need a clicker.
You probably will.
Can I get that, please? What do I do there?
So one more presentation. I'll turn the mic over to Commissioner Dante Santoni.
Everybody okay? We need to get up and stretch or anything? We can do that. It's not a problem. What you'll see, and of course, you'll probably know this, a lot of the things that we're going to talk about will be repeats. And I think that that's not such a bad thing because, again, I just completed my first year, and one of the things that I strive to do is to work on consensus. As a legislator, it was a real challenge to work for a consensus because I was one of 203. We had 50 senators and a governor. It was always a challenge. But I think with 3 and with a great team that we have a real opportunity to put politics and everything else aside and work together for what's better for the county. And I think that's what my focus has been and will continue to be as long as I sit at this desk and have that honor. So I just wanted to say that first of all. So the issues that I'm going to be talking about maybe will be repeats. I'll try not to do that. I'll make it a little bit shorter if I can. What I'm going to do is they're up there. I'm going to go through what I put last year, 2024. I was a brand new commissioner. I probably didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I put those down because I think those were the issues. And as Commissioner Leinbach said, a lot of the issues that we talk about aren't just for 2025, but they're going to go into 26, 27, 28, and even probably after we're gone from this place. The issues are going to be pending here in Berks County because they are ongoing and very important. So before Before I get into 2024 and talk about 2025, I already have an accomplished goal in 2025. I already accomplished one, and that was to make sure that the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. So that's
Go Birds.
check that one, Santoni. Okay.
So before you go on, who actually was the closest one with the scores?
I
Does
actually
anyone
think
know?
Commissioner Lineback was.
Yeah, it depends what you look at. You were 34.
I was 34-20.
20. I was 34-14. I had the closest actual spread. They won 40-22, which have been 18. I believe I had 22-point spread. So, but bottom line is I don't care so much about that. I didn't put any money down on it. It's too hard to earn the money than to just throw it away. It was just great to see them win, and we had a great time here last week leading up to it. Thanks to our COO team doing Jersey Friday, although it was a little odd in this room. Remember, we're standing here doing employee awards, a lot of Eagles gear. We had one person wearing a Flyers jersey. They are playing. And one wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey. It was a wonder she didn't get thrown out, but
she's no longer with us, by the way.
We had a good laugh. So good accomplishment.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Here's what I listed last year, 2024 priorities. And I'm not going to go through them because you've heard a lot about them, and they will be discussed as some of my 2025 priorities is the passenger rail. Of course, the importance of that. So the number one thing I hear about from the people out and about in the county, talk about when's rail coming? And I said, be patient. It's on its way. The Youth Detention Center, we'll be talking a little bit about that. Berks County local government planning. I'm going to get into that a little bit because warehousing was more of an issue last year, and the responsibility and the relationships that Berks County has with our local communities. Public health was mentioned, elections, and legislative advocacy. I talk about that. It touches on all the different areas that I'm going to be discussing in a few moments. But again, many people know this. I've talked about it. Probably people are sick of hearing it. As a former legislator, it's important to have active advocacy at all levels, especially hearing from local governments in Harrisburg and Washington, to let them know, to let our representatives know at those levels what's important to us. So those were what I talked about last year. Here we go for 2025, if I can figure this out. There we go. 2025 goals and objectives. That's me, Dante Santoni Jr. We talk about fiscal responsibility, and I'm going to talk about, budgeting is basically what we're talking about. Yes, we voted for a tax increase. I think the last thing I wanted to do as a first year commissioner was to vote for a tax increase. Not something that I enjoyed doing, but I think it's important not to hide behind it, to be transparent about it, to explain why. I think people understand if you talk to them and discuss with them and tell them why we had to do it, there'll be a little bit more understanding. Not everybody, of course. There's always going to be people that don't like it, and I understand that. But in order to do the right thing, sometimes you have to take a little bit of criticism. Berks County provides a lot of services, as many of you in this room know, and people out in the viewing audience know as well. We provide lots of services for our seniors through our area agency on aging. Our veterans get a lot of help. We have a great team over at our Veterans Services Center, Spring Township, and the work that they do to provide for our veterans, a lot of senior veterans. My father was helped with that area, so I know from a personal experience the great work that they do. Our most vulnerable citizens, mental health, developmental disability population, our farm community, and just it goes on and on, the services that we provide. And it requires funding. So those are some of the things that we provide for our community. And I think it's important that we have to fund those for our seniors, for our veterans especially, and our most vulnerable. We have mandated services. It mentions there are mandated programs. There's some things we have no jurisdiction over. A lot of things in our public safety world, our prisons, our courts, are mandated by federal and state law. That we and in a lot of cases, funding doesn't follow it along the way. It's what's called an unfunded mandate, we're required to provide the services and aren't provided the resources. So that's a strain on our budget. We have over 2,000 employees, great employees that provide the services that I've talked about. And we need competent, we need productive, we need motivated workforce. And in order to do that, we have to pay a fair wage and provide them with good benefits. And I think we do that at the county. There's been a lot of challenges since the pandemic, really, with finding great workers. And I think we've done a pretty good job. It's always been a challenge, especially in some areas, Berks for one. But we need to make sure that we have a viable workforce that provides the services that our 470,000 Berks counties expect. So that all requires money. No one likes to vote for a tax increase, but sometimes we have to do the responsible thing. I think we did it. It was about an 8.9% tax increase this year. I'm not saying that's not a lot, but I think we looked at it fiscally and managed it well and did the best that we could to make sure that we came in at a number that could provide those services that I talked about at a fee that we could afford. This has been talked about as well. Alternative funding sources in order to help fund our county government. We are pretty much restricted to a property tax increase in that the way we fund our county. Advocacy, I'm going to be talking about. One of the things that I'm going to be doing, I know that my colleagues are very involved with County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. I want to get more involved in 2025, and I'll talk about. I'm sitting on 2 subcommittees I was put on. One of them is assessment and taxation, and some of the things that I believe we're going to be talking about on that subcommittee is looking at that alternative funding sources. I've said it before at this table. Other counties are given opportunities to do other forms. Allegheny County for one, Philadelphia County for one. As a legislator, I voted to provide them the resources that they need, that they can choose. And sales tax is one of the things that they can increase to help provide services for their counties. So we're going to be fighting for that. I know it's not one of the top priorities for CCAP, but I think we need to start that conversation and move that along. So that's the area of budgeting. Again, I think it's important to talk about the tax increase that we had to provide, not something that we wanted to do, but I think we're fiscally responsible in that manner. I'm going to be talking more generally about issues and not get into specifics. My colleagues did a terrific job in doing that. So public safety is a big issue that the county is responsible for. And I know that the Youth Detention Center has been talked about. There was an emergency declaration provided by us in 2024, asked for by our court system, our DA, with the issues that Commissioner Leinbach specifically spoke about, our youth violence. These aren't shoplifters. These are kids that create serious crimes that we need to find somewhere to put them to keep our community safe, the community needs that we have to provide for our citizens. I think it's really important as we move this Youth Detention Center discussion forward. 2025 is going to be a year we're going to be talking a lot about it. We think it's really important. I want to commend our leadership team, Kevin Barnhart, Larry Medallia, and his team for doing the yeoman's work on the Youth Detention Center, working with our partners, Dauphin and Lehigh County. It's really important, I think, and the state and federal government looks very favorably upon regional partnerships when they're looking at funding, looking to where they can provide funding to get the bigger bang for their buck. And I think when we've decided to create that regional partnership with regards to that Youth Detention Center, it's gonna really provide benefits for us down the road with regards to funding and other access that we might have. Lots of things under public safety that's been talked about. The other thing I just want to briefly talk about is our relationship with our local governments, providing the EMS and fire services. We all know the crisis that's out there and people working in those areas and keeping our communities, our local government safe. I'm not saying that the county is going to overtake that, but we should look at how we can work with our local governments, our townships, our boroughs, and help. I know that Brian Gottschall has been working with our local governments in that aspect, and I think it's something that we will probably be talking about in 2025, and maybe with some things that might happen in the following year of 2026. Moving on, economic development is a common theme from all of us, and I think it's important that we mention some of the areas that that economic development is should be a focus for us. Of course, we've heard about the agricultural study. At our last operations meeting, Pam Minute and her team, Kim Fees, our ag director, talked about the importance of what agriculture is to Berks County, and not just agriculture and what we perceive as agriculture, but the areas that agriculture touches, tourism, the environment, those kind of areas that are very involved and very important to our county residents, and something that we're going to be moving forward on, talking about that ag study and the implementation of it. And I look forward to helping along the way there. I'm not going to get into too much about the Reading Regional Airport. We know as the county has not taken over, we've established the authority. The commissioners, along with some leadership people, are on that authority. We need to continue to work to make this a regional asset, not just for transportation, but as was mentioned earlier, for economic development around the area of the airport, so we can bring businesses there. The sky's the limit when it comes to the airport.
No pun intended.
Attempted a joke, but it was weak. I'm sorry.
I got it, but it's more like a dad joke.
Passenger rail, as I said in my opening remarks, the number one issue that I hear about, and I think most of us hear about, is the prospect of what that will have, the regional impact. Again, we talk about regional cooperation. We work with the other counties, Chester and Montgomery, and getting this back up. I'm old enough to remember when we used to have rail service. It stopped about when I was in college, and that discussion has been going on and on since then. And it's been a long time since I've been in college. But I think the important thing is the leadership that we have with Commissioner Leinbach, David Hunter, and Mayor Moran as the Berks County representatives on that commission. They've done a great job. They fought for our county, but also worked with the others. I think it's important that we have a unified voice of where we're heading on that. And I think those things are all pointing us in the direction of success. I know we still have some things to do and a lot of work ahead of us. But I think it's important. It's a huge economic development driver, added benefits, environmental benefits, traffic issues that can be relieved with this rail service. And I just think it's important to our community, not just for people to jump on a train here in Reading and go to Philly, but also to bring people back our way. The train goes both ways, so we're hoping that we can give people a reason to come here to Berks County. Elections, of course, we're going to talk about elections. Everybody has and everybody will. 2024 was a pretty crazy time, election-wise, but that doesn't mean that 2025 isn't either. There's more people on the ballot. There's more work to be done. We need to continue to strive to make sure that people have faith in their election system. They should. Our election team does a terrific job, and I'm really proud of them, and I'm really proud to be part of that and to extol their virtues. They're a terrific team. Your vote is safe and secure, but that doesn't mean we can rest on our laurels. We always have to make sure that we create that atmosphere, access, ease of voting to make sure everybody's vote counts and that it's safe and secure. Again, I talk about advocacy. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. I also have been put on a subcommittee through CCAP on elections reform. I think Commissioner Rivera is on that as well. So I look forward to working on some of the issues that we can get accomplished. And I'm hearing rumblings from Harrisburg, from some of my friends, that there's a real appetite to do something with regards to election reform. I hope we don't get bogged down in all the partisan stuff, because there is issues on both sides that might slow things down, but there's a lot of opportunity with regards to mail-in ballots, provisional balloting, a lot of the things that we heard earlier from my colleagues. But I think it's really important that we focus on those things that are nonpartisan, and those things that will make a real difference in making sure that our election system continues moving forward and keeps all this court stuff out. I mean, I as I mentioned many times during our election season, during elections board meetings, I think I got a associate degree and from Alexa and from Cody on election law because of all the court cases that occurred, et cetera. So hopefully we can try to address that. I know that's never going to go away. No offense to my attorney friends here, but there's lawyers, they need work to do. But hopefully with some of the common sense things through CCAP that we've been working on, and I look forward to working on in 2025, we can get some good things accomplished. Advocacy, this touches all of the issues that I mentioned. Again, I want to get more involved in CCAP. My colleagues done a great job in there. Oh, thank you.
I'm watching that.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Involved with CCAP, as I said, I'm on 2 subcommittees. I look forward to working with all the commissioners that sit on there and their staffs. Look forward to getting more involved in CCAP and the issues. I talked about the tax issue. I talked about the election reform issue. Collaboration with federal, state, and local leaders. I think it's really, really important. And I think that my history helps me, at least with the state level. There's a lot of issues that we talked about that we need help from our legislative friends. Elections, you heard the priorities from CCAP. We need to engage with them on a lot, and I look forward to helping there. Also with our federal, there's lots of changes occurring down in DC with cuts and things like that, and we need to make sure that we stay on top of that, how it affects us directly and indirectly, and we need to engage with our federal colleagues and also our local leaders. Reading was designated with the CRIZ, Community Revitalization Improvement Zone designation, just 2 in the state last year, heading into 2025. It's a local city initiative, I know that, but the city of Reading is our county seat, and we need to be engaged in any way we can help provide services and help to the city as they embark on hopefully a really exciting time to be living in the city of Reading, and hopefully they can provide a lot of economic development increases and help in that aspect. Local government planning, I put in there just because it was one of my priorities last year. Issues always come up a lot of times at our town hall meetings, the warehouse issue, and people aren't happy with planning and zoning in their communities. It's not a county function. We try to remind people of that in Pennsylvania. It's up to the local communities on how they plan and zone. But we do have a planning commission that is very much engaged in trying to help providing with comprehensive plans. Again, the regional aspect we talk about, but it's also important when our local communities get together, our local townships and boroughs, in providing police service, planning, zoning, and things like that to make it less a financial burden for them. So in any way we can help in providing that service to our local communities, we will do that. And that's something that I'm going to be looking at. The last thing I'm going to talk about there we go. The last thing I'm going to talk about is, and I'm glad Commissioner Linebark brought it up, is the Public Health Services study that was done. I'm glad that I know that there's some challenges ahead, and I think I've made this last for a reason. I don't know that it's going to be a top priority this year. Maybe it'll be on the back burner, but I want to keep the conversation going. The report was released in 2023 to provide guidance on the healthcare needs and services of the population of Berks County. There were 4 recommendations. I'm not going to go through them. Each one is important, and maybe the discussion, we can keep the discussion going. Yes, it's a financial concern, but the health and safety of our Berks County, it's also a serious concern as well. God forbid we ever have another pandemic. Hopefully that'll never happen. But the avian flu issue and other issues, I know that that's dealt with with our ag community, et cetera. But there's other healthcare issues that we might be able to help provide better service at the county level. So it's something that I want to keep on our radar, if you will. And hopefully we can take a look at something on that a little bit down the road. Okay, that's all that I have. And I want to thank again the team. I want to thank my colleagues for the past year. I think we worked well together on consensus. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, I think it's important to also acknowledge our team, our leadership team, our CEO, our DCOO, Larry, our executive assistants, the whole team. Our other row officers are here as well. We appreciate all your input, and we welcome all your input. Our legal team, our chief clerk, they've been very helpful to me individually as a new commissioner. I guess I can still say I'm a new commissioner. They say I have 2 years to be new, so I have another year to be new. But I really have enjoyed my time, and I hope that we've done some good things for the people of Berks County. I look forward to working with all of you again in 2025, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Santoni, Commissioner Rivera. I want to thank all of the team that is here. This is, as I noted, not the entire leadership team. And when we talk about the team, it's everyone that works and does business here in Berks County. I want to thank those of you that came out and attended in person. I think online we have about 28. That includes presenters. But then I think there was 11 or 12 outside attendees that I was able to track. In addition to that, there were, I think, the peak, Carl, 9 people watching on our YouTube channel, and as many as 3 or 5 on the Facebook Live. So really appreciate that. I do want to recognize Alex is here from the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance. Appreciate you coming over. We have Peggy from Connections Work here as well. And we mentioned our row officers. I think it's great that you find the information important enough to come out. I also want to recognize Joe Rutterow has an intern with him. We talk about staff development, and one of the new things that was put in place last year by our HR department and Alvernia is an internship program, and it's Michael, right? Michael is part of that. I think the first intern for Joe Rutterow. So Joe, thank you for joining in on that program. Sheriff Miller, thank you for joining us. Mitch Darcourt, our treasurer, really appreciate you being here. So with that, is there any public comment? I know there's none in person. I looked online, nothing online. That brings us to the end of our agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.